Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at a premium laptop. This is the HP Elite Folio, and there's a lot of interesting things to talk about with this one, including its rather unique 2-in-1 design that we'll explore in a few minutes. It's also powered by an ARM processor, but runs Windows 10. It's got a Snapdragon chip, similar to what you might see in a mobile device or tablet. So a lot to talk about with this one in just a second, but I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, this is on loan from HP. So when we're done with this, it goes back to them. All of the opinions you're about to hear are my own. No one is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what this 2-in-1 is all about. Now the price point on this is rather premium. It starts at around $1,890 and goes up from there based on configuration. So this is definitely not an entry-level device. It has a 13.5-inch display. This is running at 1920 by 1280. That is essentially a 1080p resolution, but it's at a 3:2 aspect ratio, and that gives you more screen height for working on documents and browsing the web and that sort of thing. And I do prefer this configuration to a wider 16:9 that we often see on laptops. Now, I did notice some backlight bleed on the unit that they sent us up here in the upper left-hand corner, so just be aware of that. The brightness HP rates at 400 nits, which is not bad, but it's not as bright as other computers in this price category. The material here is very nice. It's made out of metal, at least the keyboard deck here. And then the outer skin is what they call a vegan leather, but it's really just an artificial plastic-based leather material. But it does add a very classy feel to the system overall. It does have a touch screen, of course. And one thing I really like about the design of this is that this is a 2-in-1 that does 2-in-1s a lot differently. So when you want to put it into its display mode for multimedia, you can bring the display forward here. The keyboard is behind the display. You still have access to the trackpad, but you can also use the touch display here to do stuff on your device. And then if you want to make it into a tablet, you just fold it all the way down. And what's nice about this is that the back of your hand is on the synthetic leather here and not on the keyboard. Typically, these displays flip around and you are usually feeling the keys as you hold the tablet component. This one feels a lot different, and I really like the approach that they made to this. And you can also have it work in a tent mode as well, similar to what you see on other 2-in-1s. So really unique design, and I'm really quite fond of what they've done with this. Now it weighs about 2 pounds, 15 ounces, just under 3 pounds, or 1.33 kilograms, not all that heavy. Now, as I mentioned, this is powered by an ARM processor, a Snapdragon 8CX Gen 2 from Qualcomm. That is not an Intel or AMD processor, and as a result of that, the version of Windows that is running on here is the ARM version of Windows. It is somewhat compatible with Intel-based applications, but not fully compatible. And it's not going to be something I'm going to recommend as a computer for everybody as a result of some of the compatibility issues you might run into. And we're going to dive a little deeper into that topic later on in the review. Now, the unit they sent us has 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 256 gigabyte NVMe SSD. You cannot upgrade the RAM, but the SSD is upgradable. HP has an hour-long video on their YouTube channel detailing how to get inside the computer and put it back together again. And if you're into that sort of thing, it's a fun watch, so definitely check it out, because the way you get into it was surprising. You don't have to peel off the leather to get inside, but there isn't much that the user can really replace unless they have access to the parts. Now, I am very happy with the keyboard and trackpad on this. They feel really nice. The keys have really decent travel for a very thin laptop. The keyboard is backlit. I did not see a fingerprint reader on here, but the webcam, which we'll talk about in a minute, does have Windows Hello capabilities for facial recognition. There is a pen on board too that we'll demo in a little bit. It docks itself here on the top of the keyboard deck, and it charges itself there as well. And I thought it was kind of neat how they designed this, because if you put the pen in upside down, it automatically flips over due to magnets to get itself into the proper position. Every time you put it in, no matter what you do, it gets itself righted properly and charging. I just thought that was such a neat touch there. There's also a SIM card here on the right-hand side, or at least a tray for one. They have a 5G and a 4G version of this if you want to use it on a cellular network. You also got some ports here to talk about. On the left-hand side, you have a single USB Type-C port. This is full service. It does power, video, and data. On the other side, you've got another USB Type-C port. Again, full service for power, video, and data. But these are not Thunderbolt ports, so just be aware of that. And you also get a headphone jack here for attaching headphones and microphones to the laptop. Now, as I mentioned, there is a webcam here at the top. They do have a manual shutter mechanism here for blocking the lens. So if you want some privacy and don't want to stick tape on your fancy computer here, you can just slide this over and that shutter will go into place. The camera is 720p, nothing spectacular from an image quality standpoint, not a 1080p camera. So if you need something better than what you just saw, I would suggest attaching something separately, but for Zoom calls and stuff, it should be more than adequate. One thing I did notice with the webcam, and you saw that just a second ago, is that it was kind of dimming the brightness down a bit, and I was seeing that in a couple of different areas of the house. So there might be some software updates they can push down at some point to maybe address that issue a bit. Now, the built-in speakers on this are very nice. They are crisp and clear and quite loud. Not a lot of bass to them, but it does sound like a premium laptop should. You will get better audio quality if you attach headphones, of course. What I like about them is that they are upward firing, and even when you have the laptop in its multimedia mode here, they are still firing up because you're not flipping the computer upside down essentially to put it into that mode. So the audio experience is pretty consistent across different modes that you might put the laptop in. Now, this is a fanless device, so it will not make any noise even when it's under load. It doesn't get all that hot, and the battery life on it is quite good. In fact, that's probably its primary selling point. HP rates this at 20 hours of battery life, and I think if you stick to the basics on this, which is really what mostly it does, keep the display brightness down, I think you'll get very close to that 20-hour mark, give or take. And that's the strongest selling point for Windows ARM, is that battery longevity. But that does come at the expense of compatibility. Let's dive into its performance doing some day-to-day tasks, and we'll discuss some of the things that you need to consider if you're considering this computer. All right, so we're going to begin at the top level here, some web browsing, and we're going to load up the Microsoft Edge browser. Now, this browser is optimized for the ARM processor. A lot of the default Windows applications that you'll find when you boot it up are also optimized, and it'll feel very much like your run-of-the-mill i5 computer. It's got some pretty good performance here when you're browsing the web. I would expect as much out of a computer at this price point. All is good, no real problems here at all, and it does feel as though it is a little zippier than some of the ARM-based machines we played around with a couple of years ago. So there's been some improvements to this. We also did a little bit of YouTube watching on that browser earlier, and we were running a video at 1080p at 60 frames per second and didn't experience any drop frames on it. So from the standpoint of web browsing, this is going to feel very much the same as any other computer, just with better battery life and perhaps a much higher price tag. And other stuff you might do, like Microsoft Word and the whole Office suite, all of that should be fine. They've got everything pretty well optimized for it at this point. So if all you do is Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and a web browser, then this is going to be fine. Everything will load up, it'll perform the way you would expect, and it'll be a nice experience with good battery life. Where it gets more complicated is when you load up software that is not specifically optimized for ARM. So if you bought something in the Windows Store, you may not see it available for your computer if it's not yet optimized for this machine. But a lot of stuff will work just by clicking on it. So for example, this is the Intel version of Google Chrome that I just loaded up here. And what's happening in the background is that Windows is translating the instructions for the Intel processor to the ARM processor, and it feels pretty good. It doesn't feel all that much slower than the native ARM web browser we were just looking at. It does have a little bit more sluggishness to it, but it's something usable, and for the user, they really wouldn't notice anything when they boot it up. The problem is that at the moment, Windows does not support all applications, and there's a lot that don't work. Anything 64-bit is going to throw an error message at you. So if I jump into this application here, I tried to install a video editor on here just for the heck of it. And when you go and run the application, you're going to get a message popping up saying that this is not compatible with your PC. And then you can click on Learn More, and you can go to a page here to understand exactly what it means to own a Windows 10 ARM computer. So if your corporation is running a 64-bit application that is necessary, at the moment it won't run in the current build of Windows that's released to consumers. Now you can install a beta version of Windows at the time I'm recording this video that will run those 64-bit apps, but I have found it to be very hit or miss when it comes to compatibility. Some stuff works, but works slowly, and most things that I tried didn't load at all. So it's really not something that's going to run a bulk of the 64-bit applications at the moment, and to get some of them to work, you've got to get that beta version of Windows installed that offers other complexities and perhaps instabilities that an IT person is not going to want to deal with. Now the performance on this though is much better than I experienced a couple of years ago when the first round of ARM-based Windows computers came out. And let's take a look at a couple of benchmark tests now. Now we're going to start with the browserbench.org speedometer test, and here we got a score of 70.6 running on the ARM optimized version of Microsoft Edge. Now on this same computer running the Intel version of Chrome, we got a score of 43.5. So you can see the performance hit that your applications will experience if they are not optimized for this processor. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But the performance here is about what we're seeing out of maybe an i5 processor from a year or two ago. So it's better than it was, but it's still not as good as a computer that is running with a regular Intel chip. Next, we're going to take a look at Geekbench 5. And we ran the ARM optimized version of that on this computer. We got a score of 801. That's on the single core test. The multi-core test came in at 3,139. And you can see that benchmark is very close to what we experienced on the Surface Laptop Go with an i5 1035G1 processor. So it's going to feel on an optimized ARM app about what an i5 machine would feel like on the Intel side, just with less compatibility, but you do get better battery life, and it's up to you to determine which one is more important. So we're seeing some progress here, but we're still not seeing performance here that is justifying the high price tag of these ARM-based machines, and of course you've got the whole compatibility problem. Now I'm really pleased with the pen design on this. It is a construction pencil kind of look, so if you're not into these flat pencils, you're not going to like this all that much. But I like it because the buttons are on the thin side of the stylus here, and typically when I'm using one of those rounded Windows pencils, I'm always pushing the buttons by accident. Here, my thumb is resting in a spot where there aren't any buttons, and I'm not getting those errant button pushes, and I like that quite a bit. There's also a button here at the top. You can configure what all of these buttons do, so you can quickly launch your favorite note-taking app by pushing the button here at the top, and of course there's a lot of other configuration you can get into. The pen gets detected about 1/4 of an inch from the screen, and that's great for me because when I'm writing, I tend to lift my pen up high in between words. And on some other tablets, typically when I do that, it starts picking up my wrist and the screen goes crazy. This has been pretty good at not registering errant touches of the screen, which has been nice. This is a Wacom AES 2.0 pen. It has 4,096 levels of pressure sensitivity, and it's tilt compatible too. And again, I really like how it docks itself when you're done with it. Now, it was hard to do our usual gaming tests and benchmarks on this machine due to the ARM architecture. We did get some Intel games to run though, like Half-Life 2, but this is a very old game. But it did run pretty nice, as you can see here. No real issues with this one. We also tried Shovel Knight, which is another older game, a 2D platformer. Again, it's an Intel game, but it runs very nicely here, translated onto the ARM architecture in real time. And all of these games we booted up from my Steam account. But we were not able to run much else. In fact, we did install the Windows Insider build on a live stream, and I couldn't get any of my 64-bit games to run. There might be a few out there that will boot up, but it really was not a good experience trying to get something to run on here. And if you compare computers at this price point, A lot of the newer Intel and AMD-based machines can actually run AAA titles like Red Dead Redemption 2 at a fairly playable frame rate these days without having to get a big fancy gaming machine. But you're not going to get there on here at the moment unless somebody optimizes those games for ARM, and that's very unlikely. So the use case for this, I think, is probably your corporate CEO type that's living in Microsoft Office and Word and their email, doing the web browser. But once you get into some more specialty stuff, you're really going to have to be careful to ensure that the ARM architecture is going to support the applications that you're running. 32-bit apps I'm finding run pretty well, whether it's a game or something old here like Visual Fox Pro or whatever. That stuff works great, but it's the 64-bit stuff that's going to give you a lot more trouble at this point. So as Microsoft improves the operating system, this computer will get a little better, but the ARM architecture is just not there yet on Windows, and I think that's really going to hold this machine back. And it kills me because I love the hardware. I think this is a really nicely designed computer. I don't see a lot of things that try to do things differently these days, and this one is a lot different than many other two-in-ones we've looked at. So I would love to see something like this running with an Intel processor or an AMD processor that would give us the compatibility along with this really neat design. But at this point, it's a bit hindered by its ARM architecture. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Chris Allegretta, Tom Albrecht, Jim Callagher, Hot Sauce and Video Games, and Brian Parker. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.